You're 16 and the cold comes first. Before the screaming, before the smoke, before anything else. The cold rolls down from the hills and settles into the valley, where your village has stood for 3 generations. You're gathering wood at the edge of the tree line when the horses appear. Big animals, dark and breathing hard. Their riders wrapped in fur and iron. You don't run because your legs won't let you. Someone grabs your collar and lifts you off the ground as if you weigh nothing. Your axe falls somewhere in the leaves. The village behind you becomes noise. And then, fire. Then, a thing that you can no longer look at. They bind your wrist with a strip of leather. You count 7 others taken with you, none from your own household. The man who holds your rope doesn't speak your language. He doesn't try. You're marched north for 4 days. The ground is frozen and your boots are thin, the kind meant for harvest work, not for this. Your feet blister, then go numb, which is almost a relief. They feed you dried meat once a day, tossing it down without ceremony, the way you'd throw scraps to a dog. At night, they'd make camp in clearings and sleep close to the fire while you sit in the outer ring, where the warmth barely reaches. One of the other captives, a woman maybe twice your age, keeps whispering prayers into her knuckles. You don't know what gods she's calling on. You're not sure any of them are listening. The stars here look the same as the stars over your home, and that's the worst part somehow. You arrive at the settlement on the 5th day. It spreads along a wide river, low timber buildings with sod roofs and smoke rising from every chimney. There are children watching from a fence, curious and unafraid, because this is ordinary to them. You're brought to a yard behind a longhouse where a broad man with a gray beard walks the line and looks each of you over slowly. He grips your jaw and turns your face, checks your hands, your shoulders. He says something to the man who brought you. Coins change hands. You understand then that the journey is over. This is where you stay. A woman in a brown wool dress leads you inside without looking at you directly, as if you're furniture being moved into a new room. You're 17, and the work starts before dawn. They call you something that isn't your name. You learn it quickly because the alternative is a sharp word in a harder hand. The farmstead runs on a rhythm you have to absorb fast. Water hauled from the river, animals fed, grain ground, ash cleared, wood split. The woman who owns you, the master's wife, has sharp eyes and sharper patience. She watches everything. When you move too slowly, she clicks her tongue like a blade against a whetstone. When you drop something, she makes you clean it up twice, and then stands still while she looks at you with an expression that holds no warmth at all. You learn to stay small, to move along the edges of rooms, to finish tasks before they become complaints. The other thralls here number 4. A man with a broken front tooth who came from the coast 2 winters before you. A young boy, maybe 13, who doesn't speak to anyone. 2 women who work in the main house and communicate mostly through glances and small gestures. None of them welcome you exactly, but the man with a broken tooth shows you where the kindling is kept dry and which cow kicks if you approach from the left side. He tells you not to speak during meals unless the master speaks first. He says it once, flat and without kindness, but he says it, and that's something. You're 18 and you've stopped flinching at the cold. Your body has changed, hardened in the shoulders and the hands, and now the work that once left you shaking at the end of the day is simply the day. You carry twice what you could carry before. That's not freedom. That's only proof that you can be used more. The master has barely spoken to you directly. He's a quiet man compared to his wife, more interested in his animals and his trading than in the people who keep his household moving. Once, he watches you haul timber and gives a short, approving sound. His wife hears it and finds something for you to clean that didn't need cleaning. Winter is the worst season. The cold presses through every wall of the barn where you sleep, and the straw beneath you is never quite enough. You wake with your breath visible and your joints stiff, and you lie there for a moment in the dark before you remember that lying there is not allowed. There's a cough that moves through the thralls that season, passing from one to the next. You get it and you work through it because stopping is not offered as a possibility. Your chest aches for 3 weeks. The boy, the young one who never speaks, gets it worse. He's moved closer to the fire for a few nights and then he's better. And then one morning, he isn't in the barn anymore. No one tells you where he went. You're 20, and the master takes a second wife after the first one dies of a fever in early spring. The household holds its breath for a few weeks before she arrives. She comes from a settlement 2 days east, younger than the first, with 2 daughters already, and a way of looking at everything as if she's calculating its worth. She reorganizes the main house, moves the thralls around, sets different tasks. You're pulled from barn work and assigned to the kitchen and to serving during meals. It means sleeping indoors now, on a mat near the hearth. You're closer to warmth and closer to scrutiny, and it's hard to say which matters more. She calls you by your actual name once, by accident, when she's distracted and just speaking quickly. Then she catches herself and goes back to the name they gave you. You pretend not to notice. You've learned that noticing things in front of them costs you something that you can't always afford. You serve the food and pour the ale and keep your eyes at a level that means nothing to anyone. Her daughters are young enough to still look at you with open curiosity. The older one asks you once where you came from. You answer briefly, and the girl nods as if you've told her something interesting. Then she runs off to find her mother, and nothing more comes of it. You're 22, and a merchant arrives from the east with a cart full of cloth and bronzework and news from other settlements. He stays for 3 days. During meals, you hear pieces of what he says. Something has shifted in the trading routes. There's silver moving differently now, and with it, people. The word he uses for people like you is one you've heard before, spoken casually, between bites of food, the way you discuss grain prices. That night, lying on your mat, you think about the merchant's cart and whether there was room in it for a person who wanted to leave. Then you think about what happens to thralls who try. You close your eyes, the fire burns low, you stay. You're 23 and something shifts between you and the new mistress. Not warmth, exactly. It's more like tolerance becoming something adjacent to use. She finds that you're quick and you don't need instruction repeated. And in a household running on the labor of 4 people, that gets noticed. She begins assigning you tasks that require something closer to judgment. You oversee the salting of meat before the deep cold comes. You manage the grain store and keep count. She doesn't thank you for this, but when the master's cousin visits and insults the household's management in front of guests, she corrects him sharply and includes what you've done as evidence. You hear it from behind the partition where you're serving. She uses your name, the real one. You're 25 and the man with the broken tooth is sold. One morning he's gone, and a different man is in his place by evening, younger, bewildered, with the same look you must have worn when you arrived. You show him where the dry kindling is kept. You show him which cow to approach from the right. You say it once, without comfort in your voice, because that's what was given to you, and it was enough. He nods, and you go back to your work. Later that week, you find yourself thinking about the man's hands, how scarred they were, and how he once told you that in his village, they made boats fast enough to outrun the tide. You wonder where he is now. You wonder if someone in that new place will at least show him where the kindling is. You're 27 and there's talk of a raid coming from the west. The master reinforces the fence posts. He sharpens things. The mistress moves the winter stores deeper into the house. You watch all of this with a strange feeling that takes you a moment to name. Because you're aware, suddenly, that you don't want the settlement burned. This place that took you, that bent you into the shape of its needs. This is also now the place where you know every corner in the dark and every sound the animals make before a storm. That's not belonging. You know what belonging felt like, and this is not it. But it's something. Something small and practical and impossible to fully hate. The raid doesn't come. The tension holds for a week and then releases like a held breath, and the farmstead goes back to its rhythms. You go back to yours. There are nights when you sit near the fire after the others have gone to sleep and you let yourself remember the valley where you grew up, your mother's hands, the way the light fell through the trees at the end of summer. You hold these memories carefully, like something you're afraid will break if you grip too hard. Sometimes they comfort you. Sometimes they do the opposite. You've stopped trying to predict which one it'll be. You're 29 and the master falls from a horse and breaks something in his hip that never heals right. He walks with a stick after that, and his temper shortens with the pain. The mistress takes on more of the management of the farmstead and leans on you more heavily than before. There's no acknowledgement of this, no ceremony, just a gradual accumulation of tasks and the understanding that you're trusted with them in a way that a good tool is trusted. Her daughters are growing. The older one, now about 15, has started watching you the way her mother did when she first arrived, calculating, measuring. You recognize the look. You've been looked at that way for your whole life here. You're 31 and winter comes again like it always does, heavy and indifferent, covering the farmstead in the same silence it covers everything else. Your hands are scarred now, somewhat similar to the man with a broken tooth. Your back holds a low ache that doesn't leave when the cold settles in. You haul water in the early dark the same as you always have. Your breath clouding in front of you. Your boots better now, heavier, lined with wool that the mistress has set aside for you without comment at the beginning of the season. The river is half frozen at the edges, and you break through the crust with the heel of the bucket. You carry the water back across the yard. The farmstead begins to wake around you, smoke thickening from the roof, the sound of the animals shifting in the barn.